This is Dr. Mariah White, host of Your Life Matters. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
You are valuable. It is difficult to make a man miserable while he feels worthy of himself. Abraham Lincoln. Let's listen to that again. It is difficult to make a man miserable while he feels worthy of himself. Good morning. Welcome to Choose to Rise. I'm so glad that you're here with me this morning. And this life lesson was inspired by a conversation I just had with my daughter. She's a sensitive little soul. She internalizes everything, and she, like every little sister, takes everything her brother says, does, to annoy her, to bother her, and inside. She takes all of it in and she lets it happen. And so this morning we had a conversation about how when you allow other people's behavior, other people's words, other people's experiences in life, when you allow other people basically to dictate your emotions, and you're basically handing over the power of your life. And so this morning, this quote from Abraham Lincoln jumped out at me as I was working through this with her. And it's just kind of always awesome and amazing. I would say interesting is the way God works in our lives and how he shows us the things that we need for the things that we are going through. And so this quote from Abraham Lincoln showed up in my news feed after I'd had that conversation with her this morning and took her to school. It is difficult to make a man miserable while he feels worthy of himself. And so one of the conversations that I had with her this morning was, knowing who you are and what you know is true is something that's going to help you live with more joy. You are the only one that has control over you. And unless you're allowing other people to dictate your thoughts and emotions and your response, you are responsible for how you respond to situations in life. And so it's super hard for a 7-year-old to wrap her mind around. But the more I keep talking about it with her, the more she's able to tell me what she could have done differently, what she should think about otherwise. How could she handle the situation better? And so I'm hopefully equipping her with the opportunity to think differently and respond differently in life, and to really understand her value and her worth. So you think about value, and we always think about value increases over time, right? But when we think about ourselves and our value, that will increase. And those one things that happened, but when you realize that you are worthy right now in the moment, that you don't have to wait for that thing to happen, that experience, that that goal to be met. You can know that right now in today, you can celebrate your life as a valuable and worthy member of this world, of this society, of this life. And today I want to help you understand that self-worth. I want you to realize that you are in great hands already, and kind of learn what self-worth is, as well as how do you have more of it. So what is self-worth? Self-worth is an internal state of being that comes from self-understanding, self-love, and self-acceptance. So if you're in the state of self-worth, if you're kind of living in that and working on making improvements, you have to first understand who you are. And I would also say whose you are. You have to learn to love who you are and accept you as you are in the moment. And if there are things that you need to tweak or change or want to improve upon, you can do so. But you first have to have an understanding, have love for who you are, and accept yourself in the situation. It's a state of somewhat timeless and unchanging because it's a direct measure of how you value and regard yourself in spite of what others say or do. It's therefore something that doesn't quickly or easily change when external factors or circumstances change. And self-worth is steady and unflinching, and therefore holds power to radically transform your life for the better, and also for the negative, right? Whether you believe you are super worthy or you don't believe you're worthy, that is true in your world. So I want you to make sure that what you believe and what you're thinking about yourself, that you hold yourself high to a higher level of self-worth, so that you can have more favorable opinions, more estimate of positivity in your life, and that you can have this unshakable faith in yourself and your ability to follow through and get things done in life. I have a high degree of self-worth means feeling worthy of good things. It means feeling deserving of happiness, of good health, of wealth, of success and love. Irrespective of the difficulties you face, the disappointments you experience, or the people's opinions. In a word, it's unflinching. It's that childlike faith that you know that you are going to have, you're going to be, you're going to live the life that you were intended for because you value who you are and because God values you. To have a high level of self-worth means accepting yourself wholeheartedly at all times, despite your flaws, your weaknesses, and your limitations. It's about recognizing the real value of who you are right here, right now, in this present moment. We're all created as unique individuals with a unique purpose and a unique plan for ourselves. It's when we start to compare ourselves to somebody else's unique plan for them that we start to doubt our worth in this world. And so to have a high value of self-worth also means that you never allow yourself to be defined by outside forces, outside opinions, including other people that may be close to you. And it means never allowing outcomes to shake your confidence, your faith, or resolve. And this is a hard thing to do, right? Because there are so many distractions around us. There's so many values or thoughts and things that other people around us are constantly telling us are important, but they may be more important to them than they are to you. That having that self-worth and that self-value means that you are connecting to who God made you to be and living your unique plan for life. And that essentially having the unshakable faith that God has got you no matter what. Having confidence in yourself. All of this essentially means that no matter what happens, you are steadfast. Nothing outside of you being influenced about yourself or your life. Your influence alone is the only thing that matters. And alone, the most significant factor in how you can feel about yourself, about your life, about your circumstances. And that is essentially what your personal power comes from. You get to have your own power when you are doing those things. So how can you build that up? How can you keep that power for yourself and use it for good? How can you not hand it over to other people and allow them to dictate your decisions, your life, your thoughts, and your feelings? How can you build your self-worth? So this is all wonderful, right? Like having a high level of self-worth is no doubt a tremendous value, but how can we go about building it up? How can we create enough self-worth to empower our daily decisions and actions in a way that's going to help us achieve the desired outcomes that we want in life? Well, here are a couple things that I want you to kind of go through, all right? So here's a couple steps that we can go through. This, of course, is something that you can do. You can't just do just once and forget about it. It's rather a process. It's a consistently working on something that you can be able to do this. I want you to create habits of self-value. I want you to create habits of self-worth. And I want you to start placing 1 inch every time you move forward in this, and know that life is built out of inches. I've said this before on the podcast. Life is built out of inches, and every inch that you step forward, whether you take multiple inches in a day or you take just 1 inch in a day, it takes every inch along the way to make sure that you're going to do this. So every day I want you to take one more step forward. Eventually the fortress is going to grow, the path is going to be done, and you're going to be able to just keep going strong because you have built a solid foundation and that you can continue to consistently build on from time now to keep going. So what does this look like? Let's jump into these 5 steps here, okay? Step 1, the self-understanding stage. First, like I said, you have to understand who you are. Your first step involves getting to know yourself at a deeper and more profound level. And for me, this also means, getting to know my God more. Because when I get to know Him, I get to know me. When I get to know me, I get to know Him. And this first step is huge in getting to know who you are at a profound level. Imagine for a moment that everything you have was suddenly taken away. Like everything is taken away from you. Your possessions, your career, your money, your relationships, your friendships, all of your accomplishments, all of the things tangible, all of the things physical are gone. What would you ask yourself? Ask yourself these questions. What if everything I have was suddenly taken away from me? What if all I had when I left was just me? How would that make me feel? What would I actually do with myself? What would I hold of value? Who am I in this grander scheme of things? Who are the people that I connect with the most? Who am I and what do I value about myself? Or just think about being, cast out on an island completely alone with nothing but yourself and your thoughts. Can you handle that? Would you be able to love who you are in the moment? Would you have a high level of self-worth? Then and then having everything taken away from you. If you have a high level of self-worth, having everything taken away from you won't bother you. But if you are completely shaken to the core of that because your self-confidence, you don't measure your value upon external circumstances. Instead, your value comes from within. And this is why it's absolutely critical to actually take time to think long and hard about this question and then answer it genuinely and honestly. What would I actually have left would be the value? Yourself, right? The deeper you dig into this question, the more you will unearth within yourself what you do actually value. You must, however, seriously take time to ponder this question. The more you ponder, the more you will find, and essentially your real self-worth is derived from. It comes from understanding that no matter what happens externally, and no matter what was taken away from me, it's not affected me internally. It doesn't matter who I am or whose I am, depending on the stuff or the things that I have around me. Think of Job, right? We're reading through Job right now in our Bible series with my team, and this man has everything stripped from him. All he's left with are his thoughts, and all he's left with are his kind of experiences. And he's constantly questioning all of those things, right? But in the end, he still comes back to God is good, God is faithful, and life is good because God is here with me. So when you dig deeper into yourself and you really value, who you are, and you can see yourself with no mask or inhibitions, ask yourself, who am I and who am I not? How am I? How am I in this world? How am I seen by others? How do others speak about me? What key life moments define who I am today? And what brings me the most passion, fulfillment, and joy? When you can really understand what those things are and really have those keys to understanding your value, how others see you, how they speak about you. And of course, all those things are important, but it's really a matter of how you see yourself and how you understand who you are in this world. That's a true measure of your self-worth. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next one is step 2, the self-acceptance stage. By now, you probably have a pretty clear picture of your current level of self-worth, and you probably presumably also understand that you see yourself within the world around you. There will, of course, be good things, neutral things, and things that might not be so great that you want to admit. But however, to build a genuine self-worth, we must really do a real and authentic look at our lives. This requires wholeheartedly acknowledging our true nature, including the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We all have flaws. We've all made mistakes, and we've all failed miserably at time and time again. However, God paid the ultimate price. We are who we are. And this is true of you, and it is true of me. Forgiving yourself is everything you've done in the past, and accepting yourself unconditionally without judgment or excuses moving forward. This is you. This is who you are. Accept that and acknowledge it. And then saying things like, I accept the good, the bad, and the ugly. I fully accept every part of me, including my flaws, my fears, my behaviors. This is who I am, and I am peace with it. When you can really, really come into peace with those kinds of things, you're definitely going to be able to have more self-worth in your life. Fully accepting yourself in spite of your flaws and your weaknesses and your limitations helps you develop that critical, deep level of self-worth inside of you. Number 3, self-love stage. Having fully accepted yourself, it's now time to acknowledge your true value. To do this, it's important to begin practicing some self-love, which basically means you're treating yourself with kindness, tolerance, generosity, and compassion. Yes, you have flaws. I have flaws. We are all broken people living in a broken world. We all have limitations. We all have weaknesses. And that's part of being human, right? It's just letting us go and instead practice being compassionate with yourself. Compassion, of course, comes through self-love, which is from self-acceptance, which is from self-understanding. And ironically, these steps go all the way through the process. This gets you all the way through life. One simple method to keep practicing self-love is to get into the habit of speaking to yourself in a positive and supportive way. I feel valued and special. I love myself wholeheartedly. I am worthy and capable of hard things. Talking to yourself in this way brings your focus and attention to the beauty hidden inside of you. You are no longer a product of the outside circumstances or the people or the looking for approval from other people. You instead seek that approval from yourself, and that you love who you are, and no matter what, you take care of who you are. You are a vessel that God has put here to bless this broken world. And when you can really love who you are and have that love inside of you, you'll be able to give more love to other people as well. The 4th stage is the recognition stage. And when you have self-understanding, you can fully accept yourself. And when you reach a stage where you practice self-love and self-compassion, that's when people, events, and circumstances no longer define you. You instead begin to define yourself. This is given in a helpful acknowledging and recognize you no longer need other people to be pleasing. Other people have their own opinions and their own life, and you have only your own life and your own opinions. And no matter what people say or do, that is all happening outside of you, and you are only in control of your own perspective and your own attitude. It's your responsibility in order to how you respond, your ability to respond, that's going to help you get there. And that's step 5, the responsibility stage. The final step in this process involves taking full responsibility for your life and your circumstances and your problems. Now, of course, this is worth mentioning that it's not, you should not be a martyr, right? I'm not saying to take full responsibility for everything that happens to you without giving away your personal power. To take responsibility really means to acknowledge that you have personal power and you are in charge of the influencing of your life, and you have the ability to change and to influence the events and circumstances around you. So when you have a high level of self-worth, you're no longer relying on the other people to make decisions for you. You hold yourself accountable, and you alone hold the power to make positive changes in your life. You are no longer worrying about complaining, blaming, judgment, or excuses. You hold the power. You understand that you are in control of your thoughts, your mind, your actions, your emotions. You hold the power because you fully trust yourself and trust your ability to make the decisions that put you in the driver's seat of life. No longer are you swayed by the changing winds. No longer are you worried about what other people think, but you are rather steady and self-assured in who you are, whose you are, and how you're able to live your life with love, loving yourself unconditionally, and recognizing that you are the captain of your own ship. And no matter what storms are brewing around you, no matter what is happening in your life, you are staying the course because you are created in God's likeness. You are created for a purpose in this world, and you will not be rattled by external circumstances in this world. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope all of this builds back up to you and you're able to find some self-worth in this world, whether it's in the responsibility stage where you're able to respond with the grace and the forgiveness of yourself and really know who you are. You're in that recognition stage where you are really identifying what's important in your life. If you are in the self-love stage where you're really trying to figure out who you are and what you're loving yourself, and regardless of what that means, that you are taking good care of who God made you to be, that you love you no matter what so that you can love other people. Maybe you're just in the self-acceptance stage where you're just trying to accept who you are and the mistakes you've made and what kind of choices you've made in the past and taking responsibility for that. Or maybe you're in the self-understanding stage where you're really just trying to figure life out as a whole. And understanding who you are and whose you are is definitely something that's going to help you live a happier and healthier life. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I would love to know more about you and what you loved about this show. Head over to ChooseToRiseUp.com. Shoot me a message there. Leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and make sure to tell someone else about Choose to Rise today. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope to see you back here again next time.